CJ, finally, can I get your thoughts on the war that is erupting between Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene? I have noticed it seems to be pretty bizarre that she seems to be cozying up to the leftist media, who are, of course, embracing her, partly because she's been bashing Trump right now.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. These are obviously two very spirited individuals on both sides of this fight right now. But what I'll tell you is that I think it's very important for us as, folks in the MAGA movement, in the America First movement, to come together to be united, because the Democrats are absolutely united against us. And so I think, these personality wars are never productive in the long run. But what I will say is, I think you point out something that's really critical here. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't go on Fox News to make her case against President Trump. She didn't go on conservative media to make her case against Donald Trump. She went on CNN. And so I got to say, don't give our enemies fodder like that. Don't give them, the upper hand in this sense, because we're in a spiritual warfare in this country right now. These people want to see us, harmed. And they've made that very, very much clear. We've seen it all across the country. Just last week, Turning Point USA sought to have a rally at the University of California, Berkeley, which was shut down by fire bombs and Antifa domestic terrorists outside of it. And so I think, again, like all this, just division and infighting, it needs to stop. I always feel a little bit weird when I have to, as the 23-year-old, say everyone needs to grow up, but I think they do. We need to just kind of focus on the end game here, which is saving the country, putting America first, and making America great again.
Yeah, great advice. Look, on to some big news. Rap star Nicki Minaj is using her platform to shed light on the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. And as we know, thousands of Christians are being slaughtered in Nigeria. Here's Nicki Minaj addressing the United Nations and praising Donald Trump.
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage in calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria, to combat extremism, and to bring a stop to violence against those who simply want to exercise their natural right to freedom of religion or belief.
CJ, credit to Nicki Minaj for drawing global attention to this.
No, you're exactly right. Major credit to her. And I think everyone here in America was a barb today, because we stand united with her when it comes to actually tackling this thing that should not be happening in any corner of the world. It was something that I oftentimes would talk about and be kind of puzzled about, is that we can talk about every other group of folks across the world, but when it comes to Christians being slaughtered and, acts of violence being committed against them, there was not much attention being given to that by many prominent folks in the media. And so incredible to see President Trump, of course, looking to address this, Ambassador Mike Walls, and now Nicki Minaj, a global icon and superstar. And so I think all of these voices are coming together for the good, because at the end of the day, there is no reason, again, that any Christian anywhere around the world should be slaughtered simply because of the faith in the God that they love and that they profess to be their Lord and Savior.
President Trump dialed up his affordability message for an audience of McDonald's owners, operators and suppliers yesterday, and this is part of his push to take on America's economic worries at the moment. And as we know, we've said many times before, there is no one like Donald Trump. Here he is opening up about his favourite McDonald's meal.
Doing honest, beautiful, hard work and happy families sitting down to a really great meal. Because no matter who you are, everyone loves something at McDonald's. There's always something to have. I like the fish. I like it. You could do a little bit more tartar sauce, though, please. Seriously. I hate when I say, do you have any tartar sauce? Do you understand that? Yes, I do. He understands that.
I mean, he's absolutely brilliant. We call McDonald's Macca's over here in Australia, and it was only a year ago that Donald Trump put the Macca's uniform on and he was serving up French fries. Now here he is demanding more sauce for his fish at McDonald's. What do you make of the president there?
Well, as a former McDonald's employee, I think there's anyone more qualified to make that demand. He knows the menu, he knows the recipe well, and I think that, there we go, showing just how real the American dream is. You can go from being McDonald's fry cook to being the president of the United States in just a couple of months. Only in America is something like that possible. But what I'll tell you about, that clip, I would disagree with the president, actually. The Filet-O-Fish, absolutely terrible. It's chicken McNuggets over here every single day, and that's it.
Yeah, cheeseburger meal for me. I have not had fish from McDonald's and I'm not really planning on it. Look, finally, I've got to talk to you about the Democrats. They are planning to try and take on I suppose, the success of the MAGA movement when it comes to capturing young people, particularly young men. You're, of course, a huge part of that, CJ. So I'm keen to get your thoughts. I mean, the Democrats are really trying to win over young voters. They've been trying to get a Joe Rogan on the left for some time. And here are these reports today that they're desperately trying to break into the manosphere. Why have they failed? And do you have any advice for them?
Well, because they hate men, and the men that they claim are men don't act like men in any way whatsoever. You have the former vice presidential nominee for their party who was ridiculed and called Tampon Tim. I don't really know what that's going to do to excite young men like me. But what I'll tell you, you brought up Joe Rogan. They had Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was a leftist. Joe Rogan supported Bernie Sanders. They became so crazy that they even left him. He had to say, I want nothing to do with this. And so I think their struggles are far from over. And I think when you look at the vibe shift that's happened in this country culturally, you have everything from celebrities like Nicki Minaj now who are coming over to our side to prominent athletes and rappers. Just this past month, actually, I had a party with Rick Ross, who wasn't always the biggest fan of the president. But now he says, I respect the president. I respect the leadership that he has and, the business acumen that he possesses. And so I think people realize it's cool to be a Republican now. It's cool to be conservative again, maybe for the first time ever. But we're glad to see that. And I don't think that the left is going to win back those people that they've left before because they've lost the plot. They're too far gone.
Just finally, before I let you go, Donald Trump's at the White House today welcoming Saudi Arabia's crown prince, and there was this classic exchange between Donald Trump and CNN's Caitlin Collins.
Prices go up.
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please.
I mean, he knows how to shut her down.
You have to. And I think Caitlin, if she wasn't a third-rate reporter, she would know her place and know to respect the office of the president. And the great thing about Donald Trump, though, is that if you don't respect him, he's going to remind you as to why you should and probably embarrass you a little bit in the process. So I have a feeling, I would say to any other person, they would learn that lesson quite quickly. Caitlin needs to be a little bit on the slower side. So it remains to be seen whether or not she gets the lesson. But I think every other reporter in that room got the hint, and they'll be moving accordingly from here on out.
CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you.